The Blackhawks lose 3-2 to the Carolina Hurricanes, but it wasn't all terrible. We'll break it down next on the CHGO Blackhawks Postgame Show. Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks postgame podcast. Hawks lose 3-2 to the Carolina Hurricanes. I'm Jay Zawaski. That's Mario Tirabassi. Sarah's over there. Trust us, she's here. Running the show, eliminating the whistle, all the stuff you asked for. We got it for you. Thanks for being here. We appreciate you very, very much. Do us a favor. Make sure you like the video on YouTube if you're watching us live or watching us later on YouTube. And make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube page as well. Podcast listeners, like and subscribe, follow, all that great stuff. And if you've got any kind of kindness left in your heart, a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify would be greatly, greatly appreciated. This was a game where aside from moments here or there, which I know we will get into, I can't find myself overly frustrated with. It's a really good team, granted, playing a man down. They had 11 forwards and 6 defensemen. But they were right there, man. And those opportunities were there to tie this game, and they just weren't able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm frustrated because it's a 17 skater team. You don't have Taylor Hall. You don't have Sebastian Aho, which is honestly the bigger loss for that team. And you had some self-inflicted issues, and you had at times, a few times, passed up opportunities to try and be aggressive offensively. And against the Carolina Hurricanes team, whether they're at full strength or they're this version of it tonight, you cannot pass up opportunities to try and be aggressive offensively. So I'm frustrated because it felt like a game.
It was there
that, you know what? You had a chance. You had a real chance against a team that is going to be in the playoffs by the season.
And that's the thing. I mean, Nazar has an open look, decides to peel off to the backhand, turns it over. They 2-on-1 the other way. They score.
Yeah.
And you had Bedard had a 2-on-1 with Landon Slaggert. Slaggert was covered. Bedard tried to force the pass to him instead of shooting.
Yeah.
Got the message in the third. We were pretty convinced before Bedard scored that goal that he was going to pass.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He shot at 5-hole and scored. And it's just, I think you saw from the second intermission to the start of the third period, that message seemed to have been strongly delivered in the intermission of knock this crap off. You're only going to get so many great chances against Carolina, shorthanded or not, when they're there. Take them. And I have talked about this many times after many Hawks games this year. You're up against a team that is significantly more talented than you, that is playing the simplest style of hockey there is. Rod Brindamore doesn't want Aho or Mikko Rantanen or whoever his star player is on that line circling the zone, spinning off. Like, that's not how it works.
Right.
Straight ahead, forecheck aggressively, back check aggressively, pucks on net, bodies in front. It's what every winning team does in the NHL. I talk about Dallas all the time as the template for how I want the Blackhawks to play. Carolina is another one. They can be a little boring at times. They can be a little stifling at times. But if these defensive prospects pan out the way we think they're going to at the Blackhawks, they're probably going to have that ability to stifle teams and shut them down defensively in 2-3 years when this is closer to fully realized.
Yeah.
No contender plays the way the Blackhawks play. Think about that.
Right, yeah.
Where it's peel, extra pass. It's just they don't play that way.
Yeah.
Part of it is lack of confidence. Part of it is lack of results. Part of it is trying to be perfect and inexperienced. But, like, dudes, we're 50-some games into the season now.
51?
This was officially game 51 for the Hawks. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, part of it, I think, is a symptom of the abundance of young guys.
Yeah.
That can be part of it for sure. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot you can learn from playing against teams like that. And coming into this game, as I was, putting together the preview post for allchgo.com.
You can still read that if you want.
Yeah, if you want, you can get these stats. The Hurricanes lead the league in shots on goal per game. They also lead the league in least allowed shots on goal per game.
Sounds like a good formula.
So yeah, usually that helps. They're also, I think, top 5 in both goals per game and goals against per game. It's funny how those things kind of translate. But against a team like that, you have to take advantage of every opportunity you get, and sometimes you just have to. Sometimes the opportunity you get is not, let me try a cross ice pass or a no look, behind the back dump off pass or anything like that. Sometimes the opportunity is, I'm going towards the net. I might as well put it on.
Yeah.
I'm going to shoot and follow my shot and crash the net, or my teammate is going to crash the net and something might be there. So again, I think it's something that young guys can learn. Derek King always said when he was in Rockford, and I'm sure he still has the saying as an assistant coach, is with young guys, you got to get the junior out of them. And there's a lot of young guys, first and second year pros, that still have some WHL and NCAA to get out of their system, and as they figure out, the pro game and the NHL game specifically.
I want to tell you about the 4th star nominees in this game. The 3 stars, all Hurricanes. Who cares? Ooh. So your nominees today are Landon Slaggert. Not a ton on the score sheet for him. No points, 13-25 of ice time, had 1 shot and 2 takeaways, but just doing Landon Slaggert stuff. When Nazar was demoted to the 3rd line after not shooting several times, Slaggert was the guy who bumped up with Bedard. Slaggert in the 3rd period created a really nice chance with his speed, just wasn't able to complete it. So Landon Slaggert's a nominee. Seth Jones, who's put that insane stretch pass right on the tape to Connor Bedard. 1 assist, +1, 25-12 of ice time. 2 shots, 3 shot attempts, 5 block shots for him. That is now 10 points in his last 7 games.
10 points over a 7-game point streak.
And your other nominee, Connor Bedard, with the goal, he was a -1, 23-37, 2 shots, 4 shot attempts, 1 3 and lost 4 faceoffs, so better in that regard. Also credited with a hit and a block shot. So good game for Connor, especially in the 3rd. It's like we talked about after the last game, man. Once he puts a puck in, he's a different guy.
Yeah.
He should start scoring earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be earlier and more often. Why not? I think I think he gets that going. I mean, you saw the kind of emotional spark to the him scoring the goal, and that I would love for, jokes aside, I would love for him to be able to kind of spark that earlier, because you see what gets him into games is getting on the score sheet and putting up that production, whether it's a goal or setting up a play. But I think as he continues to grow in the league, he'll be able to, kind of get that kick started right away. And I hope that's something that he's figuring out. And you see it in the last few games where, he scores tonight, gets that jump. He scored the other night, gets that jump. Figure out a way to find that jump without having to put up a point. And I think that will then translate to more opportunities to be aggressive offensively, put up points, set up plays, things like that. But that being said, 30 points in his last 30 games. He's gotten a point in 16 of his last 18 games.
Yeah.
He's doing just fine.
He's doing what everyone thought he was going to do this year, and I don't want to undersell the impact that Sorensen has had on him in this game. And speaking of Sorensen, I liked the adjustments made in the middle of the game. I liked the fact that Nazar was taught a lesson in the middle of this game and said, look, not good enough. You got to be better. We're cutting your minutes. You're going down to the 3rd line. We're promoting someone who's doing things the way we want him to do. I don't think he's going to be scratched next game. I don't think he's going to be benched or sent down. But look, young players are going to have games like this. But I'm glad the coach is relaying the message. And I think it's nice that They've got that little bit of connection from earlier this season in Rockford, so they've got some time together. And last season, of course, too. Like I'm glad that he did that. I also think that you are seeing, as the games go on, the team adjusting, changing their game, not just in this one, but over the last handful. And I think we're starting to see what Sorensen is doing taking effect big picture. You know, they're just coming off a stretch of games, and they had points in 4 of their last 7, 4 of their last 6 ahead of today. Mm-hmm. They had a 3-game winning streak a couple weeks ago.
5 of their last 6, wasn't it?
I think it was 4 of the last 6.
4 or 5. But yeah, a better stretch of at least getting points.
Yeah.
Recently.
Yeah. So that's something we had not seen earlier this year. So there are signs, and look, it's going to take time, especially when it's mid-flight. Sorensen making adjustments to the system, right. Guys learning it. I mean, we saw Seth Jones come back from the foot injury as the system had already been implemented for a few games. It took him some time to get back. Definitely. And to shake off the broken foot, of course. And now that he's caught up, this is the best he's looked as a Hawk. I don't think there's any question about it.
Yeah. Yeah, this has been one of his probably best stretches since being in Chicago. And it's not just, the point production. Like, obviously that's a big part of it, but just the confidence with the puck on his stick, making the right plays, making the right reads. Like, I think he's been doing a lot better job of that. Like, was it the game against Calgary that was just like basically,
yeah, he got booed off the ice.
Yeah. Like, you've seen the protection of the puck be a lot better. Like, he's not turning pucks over as horribly as he was. And yeah, I think it's again, like, as a guy like him goes, as a guy like Connor Bedard goes, like, this team is going to follow them. And as these young guys keep getting more acclimated to the league, like Landon Slagert and Frank Nazar, as they kind of go through those ups and downs, but as long as they keep that, positive mindset, and they keep, seeing those big results and the smaller results too of playing the right way, it's going to keep them engaged and keep them doing those things and learning that, like, what works at the NHL level.
I also don't want to undersell, and Bijan points this out too, like, there's easier sledding coming for the Hawks. Like, this stretch of opponents has been pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Tampa twice, Carolina twice. Like, they're playing Florida on Saturday. Like, there's a lot of tough games coming up here.
Played Vegas recently.
Yeah, and to see them holding their own, winning some of these games, getting points in some of these games is really encouraging. Now, we've just talked about this after the Tampa win. Then we've seen them play well against good teams, but hopefully when there is a little bit of a respite for them coming up here, they'll be able to take advantage of some of those lesser opponents. So you've got, like I said, Florida is Saturday. Wednesday, it's the Oilers at home. Then they host Nashville. They're in St. Louis. They're in Columbus. Then it's the Leafs, the Mammoths / Outlaws /
Wastash or whatever that was.
They took that away.
Yeah, I saw
that one. So it is getting slightly easier for them. So we'll see.
Yeah, but with this team, like, you can't. There is no playing down because you're 31st.
There is no down until you play the Sharks.
Yeah, right. And even then, it's basically even. So you have to approach those games as if you are playing a team like Tampa or Carolina. Like, you have to approach it. We just talked with Alex Vlasic about it yesterday about, why does this team feel like it plays better against the better teams, and then you come out against teams that are, supposed to be closer to you or, closer to equal, and that's when you get those frustrating performances. So it's just like you got to be able to put your foot down no matter who it is. Like, even if it's a random, Tuesday night game against Columbus, you got to be able to put your foot down as if it's a hockey night in Canada, kind of game.
All right, we got to hit the break zone. Some interesting quotes rolling in post-game, including Seth Jones talking about Connor Bedard. Stay tuned for that on the CHGO Blackhawks Postgame Show. But we'd like to remind you that Verilife Cannabis Stores are your top destination for the best product selection, featuring all your favorite brands at unbeatable prices. The award-winning lineup of Matter products are outstanding. Matter offers a curated line of premium flower strains and infused gummies crafted to deliver consistent quality and distinctive effects for every preference. And if you're up for a challenge,
Sometimes.
how about P3? P3 offers a variety of infused joints and infused blunts for the solo challenge or a group session made with a unique combination of cannabis, distillate, and botanical terpenes. Every hit rings true with 35% THC or higher potency. Woo! All these great products and more can be found at any one of the 8 VeraLife locations across Illinois, or you can browse and order ahead at veralife.com. When you walk in, mention the code CHGO25. You're going to save 25% off. And even if you place an order online, mention that code at the register. They're going to take 25% off one of their amazing products today. So to be clear, that code CHGO25, you get a discount on one of the items in your order cart. Take care of it, veralife.com, or walk into any of the 8 great VeraLife cannabis stores.
And
today,
do it right now.
I don't know if they're open.
Oh, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Whether it is pro or college, well, college is over, so there's really only one more pro football game to bet. But if you're going to do it, bet it with the app Circa Sports Illinois. Circa Sports, it's sports betting the way it should be. Circa Sports Illinois has high betting limits, low holds, and exceptional customer service. You can bet on all of your favorite teams in every game this season, not just the big game on Sunday, but even the small games.
Oh.
And basketball, hockey, baseball's coming up.
Can you bet the Royal Rumble?
You know, without looking, I don't know, but I know that you could in the past. So if that's something you want to put money down on, a scripted outcome event,
Tatanka,
go for
1,500 to 1.
Sure. That's all on you. You can do it all with Circa Sports Illinois. Whether it's spreads, props, futures, or in-game, Circa Sports has it. So fund and bet like a pro from anywhere, anytime in Illinois. Download your new bookie today at circasports.com. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, couple super chats we want to knock out here. We got one from Derek Berta, $5. Says, love the show. Listener since 2023. First time commenting. Tough night for Nazar. Great to see Sorensen's awareness with mid-game line adjustments. Yeah, that's what we were just talking about. I like a proactive coach that says, hey, you know what? It's not his night tonight. Let's move him down. Give someone else a look. Slager came in and did really well. We were actually talking about this the other night where if your line is buzzing, you're getting over those boards every other shift, it seems, with Sorensen. His in-game awareness of knowing how it's going, feeling the tides, feeling the momentum is really strong. And look, I don't know if he's the Hawks coach of the future. Personally, I would want to opt for someone with a little more experience to lead them into this next generation. But recently, I've been pretty impressed with the way Sorensen's run things.
Yeah, I don't really have much to complain about Sorensen's job in-game coaching. I think it's, like you said, like the moves on the fly. I think he's been doing a good job of recognizing that and making the adjustments necessary, whether it's who plays more or who plays with whom. Like, I think he's done a really good job of kind of figuring that out and trying to get the best matchups there.
And $10 super chat from Spriggies. I don't know. I don't want to start another jar, but Brandon Saad terminated his contract with the Blues. Could this be a guy we bring in on the cheap when our vets get traded at the deadline? No. All that does is take a spot away from a young player.
And Saad's doing that to go to a contender.
Yeah,
he's walking away from a lot of money to go play for a team that's going to go to the playoffs.
What do we see? Sarah Valley said Toronto, New Jersey.
Vegas? I think it was Vegas.
And there was one more.
Frank Sarah.
Toronto? Did I say it already?
You did say Toronto.
Did I mention the Maple Leafs?
You did. That's Toronto.
What about the Leafs?
Toronto. And Tampa. Toronto, Vegas.
I knew it was a blue team.
End Jersey and Tampa. The other blue and white team.
I could see him in a Lightning uniform. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Absolutely.
That's the kind of guy that the Lightning will plug in on the third line. He'll end up playoffs.
They'll sign him for like
points.
League minimum, and they'll just tear it up.
I love Brandon Saad. Hopefully he finds work somewhere.
Yeah, good for him. I would leave money on the table to get out of St. Louis too.
Again, love the guy, but we need to just stop. And I don't think that's what the super chat was.
He'd be fine on this team, but it also
move away from
it's not
move away from the dynasty.
It's not a move you need to do
yes.
at all.
All right, here are some post-game quotes. Mark Lazarus, before I read this, he wants to clarify, this is not a criticism that Seth Jones is making. Mark asked him the question about Connor Bedard sometimes deferring. Seth Jones says, quote, he wants to make the right play every time. Sometimes, maybe more often than not, the shot is the right play, especially when we don't create a lot. When the Jumbotron says 0 shots there, maybe he should shoot the puck. Jones continues, when we get over the blue line, we've just got to start putting pucks to the net. We could probably take a page out of their book. They usually end games with 70 or 80 shot attempts and 40 shots on net. If you look at the analytics, I guess that'll lead to some wins.
Yeah, usually shooting the puck can lead to some wins.
Seth is listening to the show. That's the only possible explanation.
He's got his AirPods in on the...
Or his mom's listening and texting
him. Yeah.
She hears
everything. I mean, hockey can be a simple game sometimes. Get the puck, shoot it on net. Good things can happen. There's never a bad time to try and score a goal. Like, that's the point, right?
Yes, that's the point of the game.
Yeah. So
it is not selfish to score goals.
Yeah. Did you send that to Joe at Obvious Shirts?
I tagged him. I see if he's going to make it. I did create a shirt. It's not as good as my 100th game Connor Bedard graphic I made.
Yeah, that one was better. For sure.
My Obvious shirt's pretty good too.
It's not a complicated recipe sometimes, and again, like, you can't just say shooting the puck more means you're going to be the Hurricanes. Like, there's a lot more to it in the way that they play and the guys that make up that team, obviously, but not being dead last in the league with 24.5 shots on goal per game. It's not going to get it done.
Right.
So this team needs to be a little more simplified. And I think as we get more opportunities for these young guys, I think I hope they'll learn that, in that, like, trying to be too fancy is definitely not the way to make it work. Like Frank Nazar, trying to peel off and, try and make a better play, make a better, like, one and done effort, turns the puck over, goes back the other way. Mikko Rantanen, an elite superstar in this league, buries it on the other end, and, like, you immediately feel the blowback from that play. And is he going to get scratched for it? I really, really hope not, because he's been pretty good since he's been up here. But as we've seen with Anders Sorensen, he's not afraid to give anybody a reset. So I hope Nazar is not going to get
he's got some options
scratched for that. But yeah, I think
Philip Kurashev might.
I hope these young guys get that message of, like, and a lot of them are shooters. Frank Nazar put up some nice goals in college and in Rockford, as you see Jay's beautiful artwork.
It took me so long.
I mean, that's just printing money right there. Colton Dock is a shoot first guy, especially compared to his brother. He was a goal scorer in the WHL.
His flying brother.
Oh my God. Made of rubber.
Guys, if you didn't see that Kirby Dock hit the other night, he gets hit and just flies into space like an NHL 25 glitch.
Yeah, it was like,
Go find
physics
that.
Physics are funny.
Pete Blackburn put it out the other day.
Yeah. So I just hope these guys, can figure out that being in those dangerous areas and getting the puck on net, like, that's the way to success.
Well, the other thing too, and when we talked to Alex Vlasic yesterday, he mentioned this, and check it out if you missed it. The one thing about Sorensen is he's direct. There's no
he doesn't mince words.
Wondering what he's thinking about. There's no, if he thinks you played bad, he's going to tell you. If he thinks you did something wrong, he's going to tell you.
Yeah.
And you can bet that Nazar, and I would bet Connor Bedard, heard from Sorensen in this game about, hey, knock that off.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder too, like Lucas Reichel, you see what he's trying to do, but there's 4.5 minutes to go in the game, and he takes kind of a careless is the word I meant, stick penalty.
Yeah.
And now you have 2:35 to tie the game instead of 4:25. You know what I mean? So it's the timing, the decision making, the context. That's kind of the thing. And look, I'm glad, and this is why we want the 9 players under 23, because they can learn these lessons now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you're not in a playoff hunt. It's not a playoff game. where you learn this hard lesson. It's happening now. So Reichel says, oh, I know he knew that was a bad time to take a penalty. It's not something he had to be told, but just situational awareness.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing we're talking about with, this is Carolina. You're only going to get X amount of chances a game. So when you have it, take it.
Yeah.
Situational awareness, game to game approach. And you would think that in the pregame scout, when they're watching film, scouting the Hurricanes, that is a message that had probably been delivered. But I do think sometimes when these young players have the bright lights on them and they're looking across the ice when it's superstar and superstar and superstar, that they get what Herb calls the tight booty syndrome, right? And it is a nerves thing. It's not I'm trying to get on highlight reels, I want to be on SportsCenter. It's, well, maybe if I just make this pass, because Connor's right there and he's better than me, so let me get it to him, and then he'll do something magical. And I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
So work it out now. That's why I want all these kids up right now. The more, the better.
Yeah.
Let's go.
And the more that they play together and the more that they play in the NHL together, I think a lot of those guys can kind of break out of that, like, well, let me just get it to Connor and he'll do something. Because there was a lot of times where it was a symptom of mostly, either new guys or younger guys over the years. They would play with Patrick Kane, and it would be, well, let me just give the puck to Patrick Kane and he'll do something. But like, you want those guys to go out there and figure out a way to be more assertive and be more aggressive, and getting the opportunity to play together in the NHL, as you're saying, learn these lessons that can unravel that thinking of like, let me get it to somebody else so they can do it, and instill more of the, I can do this on my own when I have the opportunity. And you also build up trust that other guys can do it because you have more opportunity to play with them and, figure out their games at the NHL level. And it just all goes together with that building chemistry for this new group. And I think it'll come with some maturing, and you got 31 games left this year. I really, really, really want a lot of these young guys to play the majority, if not all, of these 31 games coming up.
Do you think, though, that Sorensen has to send some kind of message after this one? Does he need to scratch a young player? I mean, look, you have an opportunity. Philip Kurashev had a brutal turnover at the blue line.
Yeah.
Bedard dropped it to him. He was wide open, and then he just fumbled, and Carolina went the other way and scored. So that's the easy one. You put Pat Maroon back in, you take Philip Kurashev out. I think everyone's fine with that. I just don't know if it has the same impact. But I also don't want him to do it just for the sake of it. I think he had the opportunity to send a message in game, and he did it. He put Nazar on the third line, promoted Slaggert, said, I'm rewarding this and punishing this. There you have it. It doesn't always have to be the next game.
And it wasn't a benching of
right, yeah, exactly.
Nazar. It was just we're flipping lines. Yeah, did it affect a little bit of his ice time? Probably a little bit, but it wasn't like, staple yourself to the bench for the third period. You're not playing anymore. Like,
and there are coaches that would have done that too.
That have done that with young guys before. But yeah, I really hope it's not I don't think it's a game where there's really anybody that should come out for that, like, reset, quote unquote, that Anders Sorensen has done in his time as head coach. So no, I hope not, but I'm not going to be surprised if he does. And post-game quote from him here seems like he's not necessarily as down on the group for the collective effort. This is from Ben Pope on Anders Sorensen. Says, quote, we did a lot of good things except that spurt of a couple minutes there in the second that hurt us. We battled really hard in the third, created some opportunities. The result wasn't there, but there were definitely some positive things. And I think that's, I think that's a fair assessment. Like, there was a stretch of the first and second periods where they put themselves in rough positions and they had to dig out of a 3-1 deficit, and they put a pretty good effort in that third. It's just not enough. It's hard to overcome that against a team like the Hurricanes.
100%. All right, we're going to hit the break zone. Again, we'll get back with more of your super chats and more of your comments next on CHGO Blackhawks.
For the best way to start 2025, why don't you head over to Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep and
Ram
and start shop the Start Something New sales event to score some of the new year's best savings on new vehicles. Hurry in today to browse their huge inventory of new vehicles, and right now get 0% financing on all new 2024 Jeep models, or shop over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. Let the amazing team at Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram help you during each step of your car shopping journey. With Ray's Price Promise, the numbers you're hearing right now are the same prices you can expect to shop in-store and online, and that's because Ray's Price Promise means no price changing, no add-ons, and no hidden fees ever. Since they prioritize affordability for their customers, hurry into Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram today and shop one of the Chicago area's largest inventories, then drive home with more money in your pocket than you'd expect. So, you're in the market for a new vehicle, then you have to check out the team at Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, because they are the only team we recommend. Visit them today on Route 12 in Fox Lake. For more information, visit Ray CDJR in Fox Lake or raycdjr.com. Serving the community since 1963.
And as you're driving away in your brand new Ram, maybe it's bright out. Maybe the sun's shining on you. Maybe you're like the reverse pig pen, right, where there's always a cloud around you. No, there's always sun around you because you saved a crap ton of money on a great car. You're going to need those shades. And so you get ready for the snow blindness, for the blazing winter sun. It happens with our friends at Shady Rays. They've got you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company offering a world-class product. They're right here and on Mario's face, rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Those frames are durable. They are not Sherwoods. They are Shady Rays. They have crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all your outdoor adventures. They've got hundreds of options to choose from, including snow goggles. So if you like to ski, you can get some of those. They look sweet, and they get anything in your favorite team's color. So maybe you want red and black. Maybe you want blue and gold. That's what I would get.
Blue and gold.
Notre Dame.
Sweden?
Notre Dame.
Oh.
Maybe you want red and blue for the Cubs or black and gray for the Sox. Whatever it is, you can get it at Shady Rays. We wear Shady Rays all the time because they are great. There's something weird about them where you put them on and somehow you see better, even though they're not prescription shades.
Yeah.
They're outstanding. And if you break them, drop them, step on them, run them over, they have a great replacement program. They'll take care of you. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use that code CHGO for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
We have a trade developing in the NHL right now. Blackhawks currently don't look to be involved, but Calgary and Philly.
Keep people listening. Good job.
Calgary
is it the Blackhawks? Stay tuned.
Philly look like they're going to be trading some players, Andrei Kuzmenko and Jacob Peltier, out of the lineup for the Flames. The Flyers are currently playing a game, so someone on that ice is not going home on the same flight.
Interesting. Got to watch those shift charts.
Yeah, so we'll see what
to find out who it is.
See what happens here.
Well, speaking of trades, do we have any super chats, Sarah? Wow.
Right in the heart.
But
brutal.
we did
have some good ones.
Yeah, we had Andy figured out that we have a playlist that has all of our CHGO Blackhawks content all grouped together, as we have that as well with every CHGO sports page that we have.
Yeah.
And Gravy recommended to watch the 2023 Draft Lottery podcast. He says it is the most fun pod you guys ever did.
Oh, that was fun.
That was a good one. I remember
it was
that.
fun. It was super stressful for a while there, but it was a lot of fun.
You had like one of the best reactions.
Yeah.
If you want to watch the biggest roller coaster night we've ever had, would be the first draft we covered.
Yeah.
Where they traded DeBrincat and Doc, and they drafted Korchinski, and we're... Oh my God.
The start of that show to the end of that show is very different.
That was a funeral.
Yeah.
Yes, for the first hour, it was not great.
Yeah.
But it was fun. All right, anyways.
It's always fun.
Speaking of trades, our buddy Tab Bamford, again for Bleacher Nation, got some source stuff and threw a couple trade names into the conversation for the Blackhawks. Anders Lee from the Islanders, Scott Lawton from the Flyers, Alex Tuck from the Sabres, I like him, and Michael Bunting from the Penguins. Anders Lee, for those that don't know, believe his wife is from around here, and he was very, 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 very close to being a Blackhawk.
Yeah,
ahead of his last deal, and the Islanders, to put it over the top, named him captain. And I think that's what made him stay with the Islanders. He's 34. He's got a $7 million cap hit through next season. This is a power forward. This is a goal scorer. This is a domer, which is important to everyone.
Yeah.
It's another stopgap. It's not a guy I think at 34 you're going to sign long term.
Yeah, he's got
one
year left.
If you're looking to help out on the top 6, you could do worse than Anders Lee. I don't know. I don't know what Davidson's mindset is right now. He has said all along, if there's something that makes sense, we will explore it. Lee has 39 points in 49 games, 22 goals, and 17 assists this year. He has scored 22, 20, 28, and 28 over his last 4 seasons. He had a 40-goal season in 2017-18. But again, he's on the Islanders, so increase those goal totals by 10% pretty much anywhere else in the league.
Sure.
That jersey just makes you not score.
Yeah.
Do any of those names appeal to you? Or are we just saying, F it, let's go?
So the only one that I feel like
and just real quick, Michael in the chat says $7 million is a bit much though. Don't worry about that number, because this year and next year it's not going to matter. It's like, even if they are to sign a major free agent next year, that $7 million is not gonna hamper them from doing anything. So Don't worry about cap hit until we're talking about if it's Marner or Rantanen or whoever it might be. That's when you got to start worrying about, is it going to be 13 million or 16 million to get this guy? That's when you start worrying about it, because it's so long term. But the cap is also going up massively.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want them adding stopgaps, but I feel like Anders Lee. Now there's another problem. Got to figure out what he would be. But I mean, he's a guy that, like, I would trust to play a role a lot like Tyler Bertuzzi, and we've seen how that's benefited. A guy that can play around the net and be effective that way. That's a good play style to learn as a young guy. I don't know if, I don't know. He's got 1 year left. If it's a deadline deal, at this deadline you get 20 so games out of him. At the end of the year, you play him next year, and then probably let him go. Yeah, flip him at the deadline. Yeah, it's a stopgap. It's a name towards the end of his career. I don't know. Bunting, I thought he was younger, but he's going to be 30 at the start of next season.
Yeah. To me, Tuck is the one on this list that makes sense.
Yeah.
You just wonder what his next contract's going to be, because he's making 4.75 now. He's had seasons. Last year he had 59 points in 75 games, so he's got 35 and 50 this year. He had a 36-goal season in 2022-23 and 79 points. That's a career high. I don't think he's going to be a $10 million guy. We're talking probably 8 or 9. And for a 28-year-old,
29 by the start of next season,
6'4", 219, like, that's a power forward. It's something you need.
Is he on expiring or one?
I think he's got 1 year left after this one.
Okay.
Through 2025-26. So
yeah, so through next season.
So 2 more.
No, through next season.
Oh yeah, through next season. Right.
Yeah, I mean,
he's 28. Like, that's
Tuck would.
If we're talking about keeping Donato.
Yeah, well, I feel like if you could either keep Donato or get Tuck. I'd rather have Tuck. I think that's an upgrade.
Even if it's more expensive, the only question is, how long are you willing to go for him? And is he looking at this as his time to cash out,
right,
and get the biggest deal he will sign,
right? And you're coming from Buffalo. Would it be attractive if a contender were to come to you rather than Chicago?
Yeah, I
don't know. I think and some of these guys have say over where they go, some don't. But I don't know. It's tough because, like, again, like I've been saying the last few weeks, like I really, really, really want next year to be a team that is young, a team that is built of a lot of the prospects and the guys that Kyle Davidson has tagged with being like the next wave, the next generation. But you can't be all those guys. They have a few veterans, still under contract through next year. Yeah, I feel like for me, Tuck would be the first one I would go to if you're going to get it. Bunting, I could give or take. Who was the other one? Scott Lawton?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good player. It doesn't necessarily move
really
the needle
all
that much.
Tuck is the one that moves the needle the most for me, but I also feel like I want someone with a little more speed. I want someone a little more, like, to me, if you're thinking Tuck, like, why not just go get Brock Besser? Obviously, Vancouver's looking to move pieces out. It looks like,
I'd rather I'd rather Besser.
I'd rather have Elias Pettersson, of course.
Sure. You keep just naming guys that go up and up and up. Yeah.
Yeah. See if Connor McDavid's available first, but
always got to check in.
No, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's my point is with all these guys that Tab listed, and Tab is plugged in. He's not just throwing crap at the wall.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why not just aim a little bit higher? And then get someone that you're going to feel confident extending and paying,
right?
And writing in with Sharpie in your top 6 for the next 5 to 8 years.
Yeah. If you're gonna, those guys, that list should be like, and I know it's in the scenario of like being this but coming up by this trade deadline. So
right,
there's only
this
so much
happened this year.
Yeah, this is really only so much time you'd have to kind of have it play out, but. That list of guys, I would want to be the B list of trying to add somebody of that stature where it's a vet, but not like a 30-plus-year-old vet and someone who can contribute right away, like, and be in that top 6 role. I would want that list to be, shoot, we missed out on Besser or Pettersson or whatever. Now let's go and see what those guys.
This is your backup list, but these all feel like consolation prizes.
Yeah.
And I think if these are your moves, be it trade deadline, maybe not as bad, but off season, then that's putting more flames underneath the chair of Kyle Davidson,
right?
Because it's getting to the point where they're going to have to find a legitimate stud to play with Bedard. Lebowski 5 says if the Hawks are still in the mentor phase, Anders Lee would be a nice pickup, and I do think that is a part of things too.
Yeah,
I am very much guilty of the. I want all the kids because the kids are exciting and they're the future. But every young team needs veteran leadership. And
you still have Jason Dickinson. You still have Nick Foligno.
You do.
Connor Murphy, Seth Jones. Like, you still have those
I understand
guys.
that. I understand that. I do think, though, that sometimes, like, this is just me speculating. I just wonder if maybe after a little bit of time, the Foligno thing runs a little thin on guys. Like, you're here. Like, I just think having voices like that are really, really important pieces to the team, because Seth Jones is that, but he's not the most vocal guy in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Foligno is vocal, but at this point in his career, he is not a massive difference maker on the ice. I think he's playing the way we expect, maybe a little better than we expect in terms of production, but in terms of game-to-game impact,
right?
Yeah, I don't know. And if you listen to Pat Maroon on the Spit and Chicklets podcast, he mentioned like the importance of having veteran voices to show guys like how to make that transition from junior or from the AHL to the NHL. He needed it, and this team needs it. Like, it's an important factor to have guys that are good leaders, are approachable for these young guys, because if you've got veterans that are unapproachable and dicks, that can completely backfire on you.
Right.
But if you find guys like Anders Lee, who's a really good leader, maybe you can convince him at age 34 to say, hey, man, come finish your career in your girl and your wife's hometown. Sign with us for 2 years, 3 years, I don't know. To me, it just feels like a massive consolation, though.
Yeah, it does.
When you were with the names we're talking about, and to be fair, Kyle Davidson has never said these names we're saying. He can't, but he's also never said, like, I'm going to go get one of the best free agents available. That's our number one goal. He's being coy. He's talking around it, but I don't know. I wonder if he has a feel for the availability. I'm sure he does more than we do. The availability of these top tier Marner, Rantanen types we've been talking about.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. To me, the idea of buying at this deadline just feels wrong, right?
Unless it is someone that's unless it's that dude.
Yeah, and I don't see any of these guys being that dude.
No one on this list is that guy.
No. They're nice pieces.
Yeah.
They're great deadline additions for contenders.
I'd like to add these kind of guys in 3 years.
Yeah. That would, I think, fit the best. That would fit, a lot better than doing it right now for a team that's still at the bottom of the league. Like, I don't know. And you saw with Taylor Hall, like, guy, I'd put him in close to this category of player where, it's a long-term vet, have had success in other places, but you see a guy like that kind of come in to a situation like Chicago's and it switches things up. Like, he's a guy that's been competitive, wants to be competitive, wants to be playing for a contender, playing the playoffs and all that stuff. You get a guy coming, from Buffalo who's gone like Tuck, who's gone through some tough situations, and wants to be competitive, wants to play in the playoffs. You get a guy like Anders Lee, who Islanders won again tonight. They're kind of pushing towards a playoff spot right now.
9-2 in their last.
Yeah. They've won like 6 straight or something like that. Like, they're now pushing towards a playoff spot. He's been in the playoffs before. Michael Bunting has been in Toronto and been in the playoffs. He's coming from Pittsburgh, where they're on the cusp of a teardown rebuild. Lawton, he's coming from Philly. They're in a rebuild phase too. Like, you get guys that come into these situations, like, are they going to be the most jazzed to be here kind of thing?
Right.
As we're seeing with Hall now that he's in Carolina, he's just like, is now kind of just opening up about like, yeah, I'm very glad I'm out of there kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of a part of it too. So I know these guys are all professionals and they'll come in with, say the right things and have the right attitude and happy to be here and play this role and all that stuff. But, it can wear on you being in a rebuild as a veteran. And, it can be a wake up call to like where you are in your career if that's the role you're going to be playing. So I think that's, I don't know. To me, that feels like something you got to consider as well.
Yeah. I'm wondering if, Sarah, I'm actually writing it right now. Do we have any of the Davidson stuff left for Monday?
I can grab it.
I could probably throw it from I probably have it still on my computer, which is not great. It's probably going to crash my computer out someday, but.
Which one did you want?
I'm going to find it for you.
Yeah, just Slack me. I was gonna say I cleared out our back end.
Yeah, I as people are talking about in the chat, like find the big fish, and yeah, I think that, again, like I said, like these guys feel like this trade would be. This almost feels like, well, we thought we were going to do something, so we had to do something.
Right.
And I don't think the Blackhawks should be in that position. If you're buying at the deadline, you got to get somebody that is that marquee name in the next couple weeks. And if not, go into the summer and get your checkbook out and then try and get one of those big fish and see what happens.
Seahawk said, in 3 years, a player like Rantanen is not going to be available, and you have to go after him. I think if Mikko Rantanen reaches free agency, they're going to go balls to the wall to get him. But like Davidson said, like, he can't force guys to want to come here.
Right.
All you can do is sell the city as best you can. You get your Folignos on the phone. You get your Seth Joneses on the phone. You get your Tavos on the phone.
I get Bedard on the phone. And I get Nazar on the phone. And
right.
I say, talk to these young guys. These are the guys that we're selling on who you're going to play with the most coming up. And that's why I feel like these final 31 games, try and showcase these young guys as much as you can. And yeah, there's going to be learning moments, but there's also those flashes where Frank Nazar makes a nice move and scores a goal. Bedard does his thing. Like, you have guys like Nolan Allen and Ethan Del Mastro laying down big hits. Like Alex Vlasic has stretches where he's playing really, really, fundamentally sound and, stuffing breakouts and everything like that. Like sell this next generation to that big fish and on top of the organization, the amenities, the city, and all that stuff. And you get those guys together and be like, this is what we're selling. It's this next wave of young, exciting talent, and you can be one of the leaders of that. And you can be that cornerstone piece that puts us from exciting young team to exciting contender.
Yes, 100%. All right, we got 2 cuts from Kyle Davidson. The first one here is him talking about his plans as of now for the trade deadline.
We'll be listening to see what happens. Obviously, when you're in a position that we're in, you're traditionally, more of a seller, but, we'll just kind of see what comes our way, and nothing that we're going to certainly force or we've got a lot of assets. We're not necessarily in that asset build stage like we were a little while ago, and so we've got the luxury of being patient and just seeing what comes our way and hoping that the group continues to take some steps in the right direction as we have the last week or so, and so we'll just kind of see what comes our way, but I don't have a great feel for it right now outside of obviously the move we just made. That's really the only active thing we've got going, but it's still early, and you still got a month and a bit to go before the deadline, and sure, things will pick up a lot more in the lead up to the international break and then in the lead up to deadline after that.
I know that might not inspire a lot of confidence or excite you as a Hawks fan, but listen in the middle of when he says we've got assets, we're not really in the draft pick stockpiling business anymore.
Right.
He is talking about moving assets to get better players. So whether it's this deadline, whether it's the offseason, it could be an offer sheet. I see Matthew Nyes as an option. Marco Rossi is an option. Like there's is it Wyatt Johnson in Dallas?
Yes.
Like all these young players, he could offer sheet those teams and bring. Look, St. Louis brought Holloway and Broberg in on one deal, so it can be done. He's never going to reveal his plan.
No,
but he's clearly got one. And here's the second one where he talks about is it time for a big offseason move?
More years and money than it usually does when you've been committing to free agents. Do you foresee? I mean, is that a path that maybe go out and? I know you've been careful with term and how much you guys spend in the cap, but could it, in going and getting an upper echelon player, is that something you're open to this offseason?
We'll see. It's January. I have no clue who's going to be available in 6-7 months, and so we'll continue to consider once we know who's actually available and what makes sense, and a lot can change in the next 6 months basically before we even get there, and so I will. You're never ruling anything out, right? You're always considering what makes sense both short, medium, and long term, and whether that's when you get to the summer and signings, whether that's trade opportunities that come available or considerations that you're making for your roster. You're never ruling. You're never not considering things, and so. We always do, but something like that, it's obviously a question I get asked a lot.
Do you think you need a player like that?
I don't know. I think every team needs players like that, right? But when you get that player and who those players are, and it's really tough to say what the right fit is. And the other thing too is we're one of 32, and everyone wants star players. We're not a one-team league. It's not the Chicago Blackhawks get to pick their players and go get them and off to the races. It's it's a competitive league. Everyone wants to win, and we're no different than anyone else answering these type of questions and having these types of conversations. And so the things you always consider. And having said that, do you want great players in your mix? Of course you do, but we also have to be understanding of where we're at, what we've got, and what will make sense in the long run. And once we know what we're actually evaluating, considering, then we'll make those determinations at the time.
So if you do determine it's time to do something like that this summer, how do you sell this to a top star free agent when they've got teams that are ready to compete? How do you sell Chicago to a top tier player?
I think it's an original six, an incredible organization, an incredible city. There's a lot of really exciting high-end talent coming up through the ranks, and so I feel confident that we're on a very strong path moving forward, and that we've got the players that and the volume of players that are going to allow us to not once as they develop, be a very effective group, an exciting group in front of an incredible fan base that supports their hockey team. And so I think we've got a lot of selling points. I don't, I'm not too concerned about that. It's more so, we have to determine what's actually available and if it's the right time and the right, options available to us. And, I think as we sit here in January, it's so premature to be considering that. So
how do you balance? Things that you do have in your favor is cap space and a lot of assets.
Yeah, let's go ahead. That's Kyle Davidson. That was Monday. If you want to watch the whole thing, it is available on our YouTube page in full, the entire 30 minutes, pretty much on the dot. You've got some breaking news.
Oh, yeah.
It was 10 seconds ago, in fairness.
As I mentioned before, Calgary and Philly are working on a deal. Looks like it's Andrei Kuzmenko and Jacob Peltier from Calgary going to Philly in exchange for Joel Farabee and Morgan Frost. As insiders release more of their information as this trade goes down, it at least looks like those four players are going to be swapping teams. I don't know if there's any more pieces to it, but that looks to be the deal. So
Kuzmenko is a free agent after this year, 28 years old. This is probably a cap compliance thing, I would imagine. Peltier is a restricted free agent after this year, $800,000. On the surface, this doesn't look like a great move for Philly. I don't know what they're thinking here. Kuzmenko's been an underachiever his entire career. Maybe it's just a full-ass rebuild.
It's
no draft pick. You'd think.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's Drager, Saravalli, Friedman. They're all kind of piece by piece as they do in the NHL. One bit and piece at a time, and then there will be a seven part trade when it's all said and done. But yeah, looks like Frost and Farabee to Calgary, Peltier and Kuzmenko to Philly.
Okay.
So I'm sure our friends Charlie and Bill over at PHLY will have a. Well, they had a post-game podcast, so
they're probably turning around.
Have tons to talk about in that one. But yeah, I mean, I would say I'd rather out of those two duos, I'd rather have Frost and Farabee than Kuzmenko and Peltier.
Wow,
that's just me.
That's something. All right, we're going to tell you the fourth star of the game is chosen by you, the CHGO audience. The winner is Connor Bedard. Had his 15th goal of the season, 16 points in his last 18 games, 30 over his last 30.
Points.
16 points
16
thank you.
Of his last 18.
Correct.
Yeah.
He beats out Seth Jones and Landon Slager. One guy before we wrap up, we should mention too, Nolan Allen was just laying havoc to whoever was in his way.
Yeah.
I enjoyed watching that tonight.
Colton Dock did that too after getting the you have to be more physically present.
Yes.
He had like 4 hits in the first half of the first period, so he got the message.
How about the reverse hit from Tavo in this one too? That was solid too.
That was good.
Let's live in that time. All right, we got to wrap things up. We are off Friday, back Saturday. That puck drop on Saturday is at noon. That means 11:30 a.m. pregame
brunch.
Blackhawks brunch with me and Mario. And then we'll do the postgame as always. So join us for that and jump on allchgo.com. We've got a big sale going on right now at the CHGO merch shop. That's store.allcitynetwork.com. allcity.com. Huge sale going on now. And if you're a diehard, you will save even more. So jump on it, allchgo.com or store.allcitynetwork.com. Take advantage. Allchgo.com is the place to go to become a diehard. We'll talk to you Saturday at 11:30 a.m. before Hawks and Panthers on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast.